Hey guys, welcome to another Reaper blog video. Today we're talking with Marc Straight. Marc is known for his work as composer, sound designer, and creative director for haunted attractions, video games, and film. His 2017 album, Souls and Blood, was inspired by Dark Souls and Bloodborne. Marc uses Reaper for all his sound design and composing work. He got me over my fear of curry. So, Marc, thank you for joining me on this interview. Good to talk to you again.
Yeah, man, I'm really excited to finally get down and talk with you about audio stuff. It's been a while. We haven't hung out since...
I think it was August.
It was September. It was right after PAX when I had my 2 weeks of not working. That was like the best vacation possible.
Are you still in Pittsburgh? You were talking about moving.
Yeah. I'm actually going to be moving hopefully shortly. Within the next month or two, probably going to Seattle, and but yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm in Pittsburgh for now. I'm enjoying the snow while I can, because I know that Seattle doesn't get that much, and we have a ton right now. So this is my setup for I Am Heaven, which is a new song I'm working on, and just before anyone in the comments says anything, yes, I am perfectly aware that my naming conventions are terrible.
Yep. And no track colors and...
I
know.
I get why people want to see the track colors, because it's visually appealing, but that does nothing for me. I'm colorblind to green. And the moment I see green on here, I'm going to get a headache. So there's no point. I know what these things are just from memory, and I'm just going to go through and I'm going to be like, okay, I need this. Okay, go to this. I don't need a name for it because I'm just going to remember it. Yeah. However, the people that I usually work with on mixing, whenever I'm done with everything, I always name stuff when I'm mixing just for them, because obviously I don't want to send them Untitled Track 36 and then Matt Martinson just hates me and never works with me again. That'd be bad.
Let's start off with kind of a summary of your 2017. What games were you working on last year?
I worked on the vocal outsourcing team for Divinity Original Sin 2. I worked on Undead Darlings, which is coming out this year. And I worked on an augmented reality game called Quest, and that will be coming out this year as a demo. I worked on a lot of haunted attractions this year too. Most of them was Rich Bright Farms, and I worked on Baker Street Escape Room. I got to make some really cool haunted dungeon and Cthulhu-ish sounds, and also something that was I got to make investigative Sherlock Holmes music from them. And that was a lot of fun. There was a lot that happened last year, so I apologize if I don't remember everything.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same way. I barely remember the stuff that I've worked on until I try to get my discography going at the end of the year, or I think I recapped 3 years. It was 3 years since I updated my website, and I'm going through PayPal receipts and stuff just to figure out what I worked on, and I'm I don't remember this stuff at all. Sorry.
Yeah, I worked on Smugglecraft. That was the one I was trying to remember. Smugglecraft was my favorite thing to work on because it was just sound design, and I got to do so much weird stuff because it was just it was a pod racing F-Zero type of game, and I was about it. I like sci-fi stuff, and I like making weird sounds, and they were like, "Do you want to make hovercraft noises?" And I was like, yes, please. I wanted it. I wanted to make weird spacey noises.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
What sort of sounds would you use, or source material to make those kind of sounds?
So it was a combination of weird metal that I had from haunted attractions. I'm working on a pet project called the Nightmare Box, and I basically is me welding together sheet metal to make something look really horrific, but make really cool sounds. And I was taking those metals that I was collecting to like make scrapes and bends, and like I would take a violin bow to it, several violin bows to it. I would also take like engine sounds, like the really loud computer fan that I have as well, um, car sounds, vacuum cleaners. Um, I had air compressors, like large air compressors from an amusement park that I did sound for. I recorded the air compressor sound for one of their rides, and I used that. Uh, and then everything else was like textural, so it was like sparklers, fire, etc., etc.
Cool.
Yeah,
You mentioned the Nightmare Box.
yeah,
I think that's one of the coolest things, being able to make your own instruments, especially like huge welded sheet metal instruments. And actually, I don't even know how they sound.
yeah. So a good example is there's a company called Morph Beats out of Colorado. They have their own. It's called the Mega Marvin, and so I put together my own version. I sketched it out, and it's about to be welded, I think, like next month. So right now it's just sheet metal and like graph paper, and then like I have industrial rods. I had an old futon that I had to move, and so I just kind of like destroyed the futon just for like the wires, and I took the wires out, and I took like, and attaching those onto it, so it's just going to be like the Frankenstein of metals just attached to itself, and everything is going to go into a lower bell shape that's coming out of the bottom. The idea is that all the sound is going to vibrate down from the metals into this lower can to make some weird low frequency sounds. And also, I can make some cool percussion with it as well.
Definitely, that'll take a beating. Seems
Yeah,
like bow it, hit it with mallets, and
yeah,
use contact mics and things like that.
yeah. A friend of mine, he's the audio director of Guild Wars 2. He was talking to me about just like what contact mics to use, and he just like blew my mind with some of the weird stuff that I can do with it, and I'm really excited. I'm trying to like keep it under wraps for now. So I'm not going to disclose too much of it, but as soon as it's done, you better believe I'm not going to shut up about this thing.
Awesome.
I was kind of burnt out on making scary things. That's why I started this new project. Um, but now that I started making my own vessels to make scary things, I'm like, I want to scare people with this now. So it reinvigorated my desire to scare people.
It might surprise some people to know that, like, despite you making like your career is horror, basically, uh,
Mhm.
you're really happy and like, a fun guy to talk to, and just positivity.
Yeah, I'm known as the hype man in the game audio Slack because like I'm always really excited about it, what everyone's doing, and like that is a very polarizing thing to be, but I'm always just like very excitable all the time.
Yeah.
Even with working in horror, you have to have you have to have a sense of humor about everything because like otherwise it's tough, especially for like haunted attractions. Like with a video game, there's a level of separation. I can take my headset off and just go do literally anything else.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm working on a haunted attraction, I'm on site for a lot of it. We would often have like really disturbing like visuals that I had to kind of just sit in and look at for a long period of time. And if you're on site and you're helping with the build, especially, you're surrounded by just like terrible things, and so you have to keep like some sort of cognitive dissonance and also like a sense of humor about it. So yeah,
It seems like something that you could easily get like numb to. It's kind of like the violence in video games.
yeah, I mean, like it's that's a really good parallel. I'm thankfully not numb to it. Being numb to something like that is an advantage because if you can compartmentalize it and dismiss it, then it's easier to not process it.
Mm.
Like if you can just have it as like a short-term memory white noise after effect of what's happening, then you're not thinking like what caused this to happen to these people that were staging.
Right.
When I'm making the music, I have to be thinking about that, and I have to be setting the pretext for it. And so as soon as I'm done with a room that I'm working in, I never want to go back into that room, just because like if I do, I'm immediately going to get back into that headspace, and the headspace is somewhat dangerous. I start usually working on a haunted attraction in May, and with Rich Farms. Whenever I was working with them, I would start in May, and I wouldn't be done until September. And somewhere around like August, I have to just hard cut everything I do. For the moment that I'm not working on that, I have to be I have to either be working on something completely different or watching just happy things, because it takes a toll on your well-being.
You want to talk about the Souls and Blood projects? I know
Sure.
the music is inspired, or it's inspired by the music from. No, it's not inspired by the music of Dark Souls.
No.
It's inspired by the stories and the
Yes.
gameplay of it.
Mhm.
So, what made you start that project?
I've always been a massive fan of the Soul series. Like anyone that follows me on Twitter knows that my timeline is like a third shit posting about Dark Souls and Dark Souls related content, a third just shit posting, and then like a third music kind of. Um, so follow me for high quality content. Um, but I've been a really big fan of the series ever since Demon Souls, and so it's always been something that like it grew with me as I was going through me wanting to really be in the industry. It was always when I first started making sounds and music, when I was just like quote aspiring to do it. What got me interested was League of Legends and Dark Souls, well, Demon Souls at the time. And so as I kind of like phased out of playing League of Legends, I still kept playing Dark Souls, and then now I'm making music for games and film and haunted attractions. So I was like, I wanted to play, I wanted to pay respect for one of the biggest sources of inspiration and joy for me, which was the Souls and the Bloodborne series. Yeah, I just decided to make my own album based on like the what bosses I thought had the most interesting stories, or the ones that frustrated me the most, and stuff like that.
Right on. So you kind of approached that as if it was a commissioned project,
Yes.
and you just get the brief of, this boss fight is this is his story, and these are his things. You kind of broke it down, and you took it upon yourself to do that, and very interesting.
A lot of it was just like research, and I had to give a shout out to my friend. He goes by the Ashen Hollow on YouTube. He helped a ton with his videos, as well as Vati Vidya. Both of their lore series, they both have like different perspectives and ideas, and I watched their stuff a ton as basically as like a landing pad for, okay, I'm working on this character. What can I learn about it that I don't already know? And for pretty much like half of the album wouldn't be able to be as accurate for me personally if it wasn't for them. So like big shout out to them. You guys are wonderful and a great source of help for me.
What instrument libraries were you using for that? It was all in the box, right?
Yeah, so I used East West, Omnisphere, and a little bit of Massive. Omnisphere was only used, so what I would do is I would take stuff from my East West library and say I had like a cello and I wanted to make it sound like just awful and like aggressive. So I would take the sound of the cello and I would place it in the right key into Omnisphere, play it back, and add distortion to it and bit crush it and just make it sound different. That's what I used for the sound for Amygdala, which is on the album, and you can't hear it a whole lot, but it gives it a texture that nothing else on the album has. And it was like the last piece that I put onto the track, and I wasn't happy with it until I heard that, like the weird, like in the background, and it was like everything I needed.
Was this approach to composing similar to how you would approach anything else?
No, Souls of Blood was like a dream project for me. This is this kind of stuff that I wanted to be making for games. So I just made it for myself. I hadn't been able to get a big orchestra contract in my career at the time. So I was like, why don't I just make my own contract and just release it as a soundtrack for something that I love, and that's pretty much what I did. And so uh, I my approach was like I was learning to build the plane while it was in the air. So I learned like a bunch of new weird techniques that I still use now. Like my favorite technique is for piano. Is every time I have piano chords, I double them, and I don't have it on my EDM stuff because it doesn't really require it. But so I'll have a piano with the same MIDI with the MIDI chords, but instead of playing as a piano the second time, it plays through a harp.
Okay.
And the harp has a really high attack. So whenever the piano fades down, the harp fades in, and it makes it feel very full. And it gives it a sound, it gives it a real big cathedral quality that I really love. And it was pretty much like it was my favorite technique that I found while I was making it. And it was complete accident because I was working on Dark Sun, which is a dialogue between Gwendolyn, Guinevere, and Gwyn, for anyone that knows Dark Souls stuff. And it was supposed to be like a musical dialogue between those three and the instruments that they are working with, or their music works with. And I just so happened to accidentally take my piano track for Gwen and put it into the Gwendolyn area that has a weird attack ratio. And I was like, oh, this sounds gorgeous. And then everything kind of get motioning toward me doing that all the time.
Awesome. What got you to originally try Reaper?
When I was in college, I learned Pro Tools and I really hated it. I still am not a big fan of it, but I understand it has its purpose and its place. But I learned everything through Pro Tools. I wasn't huge on it, and then I also learned Cubase, which was I think my first DAW. But that was like when I was in high school.
Probably like version SX3 or something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, I learned off of that, and so it was. I had just been really getting serious about different workstations and really getting into gear with what I wanted to do with sound for a career. And I saw this random tutorial video, and it was just talking about how Reaper was similar in controls to Sony Vegas. And I was like, I've used Vegas before. If this like works like Vegas, hell yeah, I am down because like Sony Vegas has a great workflow system. And then I picked it up and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm absolutely using this. And I didn't even know that it was primarily a sound designer or a sound designer DAW. I was just like, I want to make music. This thing has every single piece I want to use to make music, so I'm just going to do that.
That's awesome because I just see so many complaints about the MIDI in Reaper and
What?
like Yeah, just get
Man,
started.
yeah, just do it. People want to like most of the complaints that I've heard about Reaper are people that like. Granted, I am I like Reaper, but I also understand that it doesn't fit every workflow.
Yep.
It's my workflow is very like I want to be able to get things done and written fast, and I want to be able to like use my tools within like my VSTs to like distort them and whatnot. But like everything I want to do is pretty much just through velocity and volume. I don't really use anything else. Just natively off of this because most of the time I just use plugins to do any of the effects that I want. For me, the workflow makes total sense. But to someone else that really wants to get like down and dirty with like the controls and the mod wheel stuff, then that's more for you. I use the mod wheel occasionally, but it's just I do it through my piano, so it doesn't really matter to me.
How about things like key switching in instruments, changing articulations?
I do it, but I usually have like different tracks completely. That's why like the lead sound that's on here, there it's all the same instrument. It's all the same like Gord McBeard is the same thing as Synth Move 1, 2, and 3. It's just that this is the main one, and these are the ones that have different attacks and different articulations.
Okay.
I usually just make a different track because I don't like having four different things loaded on one track because I don't like color coding the MIDI.
Yeah.
That would just drive me absolutely insane. So I have no ambition on doing something like that. And I understand it runs on processing through the roof.
Yeah.
But
Less efficient, but probably more intuitive.
yeah, like at least for me, like if other people are better that way, then hell yeah, go for it. Do what makes you more productive and do what makes you enjoy making stuff more.
Yeah.
But yeah, like my workflow is very much so like everything is in its right place. I know where everything is, but it's like organized chaos to the utmost degree.
Yeah. Do you have any specific Reaper tips for anyone that wants to get into composing in Reaper?
Um, so the biggest one is like I would say I started out with probably the worst orchestra VST ever. It was called Eideral Orchestral.
Okay.
It easily was like the worst, but like I started out with just like free stuff that I can get a hold of, and I just like that boosts your creativity. If you're trying to like, if you're already an established composer, like nothing I can tell you will matter because you already are good at your job. Like you already are established. You already know what your processes are. The biggest thing is like understanding the workflow. Like you have to understand that right click doesn't do what a normal right click does in every other DAW, right? And you got to understand how to set up your own shortcuts. Like whenever I want to add a tag, it's caps lock for me. That's why I accidentally use caps lock all the time in Slack. Um,
Oh, that's the reason. Yeah, sure it
well,
is.
there's a lot of reasons, but that's one of them.
Okay.
And the best thing about Reaper for me is that I get to choose my own like level of involvement and my workflow is super efficient for what I want. And if you're looking to do work in Reaper specifically for composition, then that's what you have to do. Spend like a day or so and figure out like what your most commonalities are inside your workflow on other DAWs and how to bring them over to Reaper to make it as efficient as you want. And then you're going to find like other small things that's going to enhance your workflow through it. One of the best things for me is like with this track, which is a riser. Um, I do like micro renders all the time, just so I can process it again through Omnisphere. And so like with that this speeds up my time a whole lot because then I can just render it out, grab it, put it back through Omnisphere, and process it again as a MIDI. And like that sort of thing speeds up my workflow a whole lot. And like that's something that I didn't really know how to do in any other workstation. So that really mattered to me. If you're new, I would say again, like figure out what makes most sense to you control key wise. I know that a lot of people aren't going to have that knowledge before they start, but just start making stuff on just like piano roll. Just like get a shitty piano VST and go to it, man. Just like make some random ass house chords and just make stuff.
Yep.
And if you want to score specifically for games, MOBAs are a great place to start because there's tons of characters with weird backstories, and you can dive into that shit hard. Figure out, like, okay, what my mind correlates with this character is going to be different than everyone else's or every other composer's take on this character. And kind of just like make your own style with what you correlate different things to. One of the biggest advantages that artists have is that we're hired mainly for our perspective. I say that because like everyone has like a different life experience. Everyone's been through different things. Everyone has different views and has different lives, and that's what makes that's what shapes the way that we make music, and that's more important than anything. That's what is going to get you hired is the how you feel, how you resonate with different things. As soon as you get past like the beginner level, like as soon as you get into like the intermediate is like a wide as a, like that's where most people are. That's where I consider myself actually. I'm not John Williams and I have no right to even compare myself in the same category. But like most people are in the intermediate skill level with production. And as soon as you get to that area, it's all about how you resonate within the mediums that you're given. And if people like your perspective based on your experiences, then that's what they're going to hire you for, not like your perspective and your personality. So don't be a dick and be honest about how you hear things.
Yeah. Being able to empathize with things. Actually get an emotional response from the story and then being able to put that into music.
Yeah. I made a really weird like industrial orchestra thing called the Clockwork Ballet for my favorite character for League of Legends. Her name was Oriana. That song has been lost in the annals of time because I deleted everything off my SoundCloud. But it was a thing that got me a lot of attention as a composer because it was super weird and it's just like what I felt from this character's backstory.
Right.
And
that's not something that was in the game. It's just something that inspired you to make music.
Yeah, like I started making music because I liked playing League of Legends, and there was a void that wasn't being filled in the League of Legends world. There wasn't like whenever you load up the game now, you have a load screen or a start screen where you put in your name and password, and there's a character or there's a scene in the beginning that plays music. That wasn't there originally. It was just like a startup screen that was stagnant and had like updates. And so I was like, what if there was like music there instead? And so I just started making stuff that I think would have fit that specific thing that they're doing now, just because I thought that it would be cool to have. Whenever they hired Christian Link to be their first original composer, he was working as a support person at the time. And me and him became friends because we just talked music all the time. And then when everything happened, like we're still friends to this day and we talk music pretty frequently. It's cool to see like the development of that. And if it wasn't for League, I don't think I would be even making music the way that I am now.
Right on. Any sound libraries or instrument libraries that you would recommend people check out?
So Composer Cloud for East West is really good if you're just starting. I would get that just to kind of like learn from. I think from someone told me it's like $30 a month, and that's pretty feasible for most people. And
especially if you have a gig.
Yeah. I mean, like that, you have access to more things than I even have access to, actually. So I recommend that a whole lot. But as you go to more advanced things, I really like 8 Dio for everything pretty much. Their stuff is wonderful. And also, everyone says that Drums of War is outdated, but I strongly disagree. I think Drums of War is amazing. Drums of War is great for just really powerful dynamic drums. I really recommend those. I am super picky on percussion. Most of my bass drums have the sound of an exploding tire also baked into them now because I want all my bass drums to just sound like they quake something whenever they hit.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us about your upcoming project, Open Heart?
The Open Heart is a part of my new album called I Am Heaven. It's a sort of like open collaboration effort. So I rendered out two versions of Open Heart. There's the major version, and then there's a neutral version. They both have different choruses. And I put them on my website. Anyone can download them, either to just listen to, or you can write your own song lyrics and sing to it, or you could remix it. And if you do that, you're going to be included in a second album that's just going to be a collection of different people's perspectives, like I mentioned, different perspectives of music. Because I wanted to showcase how everyone's experiences created different lyrics. Like one of my friends is making, he wants to work with one of his friends to make like a rap opera version of the song. And I think it's like the coolest thing ever, like that someone else went to something completely different than the normal ethereal, like chill vocals that I had in mind whenever I wrote this.
Right.
And I think that I've always wanted to do like a virtual choir of some sort. Eric Whitacre has been a massive inspiration for me because of his idea of collaboration. And so I was like, okay, how can I make my own version of that? And something like this, from what I have experienced, hasn't ever existed. So I was like, okay, well, I want this to exist. Let's make it.
Okay, and so how can we find out more about that project, or how can we get involved?
So I have my pinned tweet on Twitter is the main one of me just kind of like, hey, I'm making this project. If you want to be a part of it, this is how you do it. If you would share that, it would mean the world to me because I want to get as many people involved as I can because I really like this idea. Also, if you would like to be a part of the collaboration, whether it be remixing or singing, you can go onto my website, marcstraight.com, and Open Heart is one of the tabs. It's on the left side. It's the furthermost left tab.
All right, and there'll be links in the description of this video and on reaperblog.net. I hear you're also working on something in Unity. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So I'm making an audio visualizer. It's a slow process, but my goal is to kind of make better music videos. Not really music videos, but they're just going to be videos that I'm pairing with my music that aren't just a one wallpaper screen.
Right. So this is something that can interact with the music that you put into it, and kind of is generative and it renders in real time, sort of thing.
Yeah. So I'm going to load in the sound, or load in the track, and whenever I would hit play on it, then it's going to automatically begin with playing it and reacting to it. And then I take that out and then I pair it as a video that's synced with the audio as a clean version of the file. And then I'm going to be posting it out as how I update my music soon. I did a test run of it on the Open Heart project that I posted up to YouTube, but it's just it doesn't have the visualizer responses. It just has particle generation now, and it just looks like cute little fireflies that are like bouncing around in different colors. So that's the start of it, and I'm going to keep evolving it because I I really hate the idea of just having like flat backgrounds for music because so many people use YouTube for music. I myself do all the time.
Hmm.
So I want it to be something like if you are using it for music and you do have it open, I'd rather have the person have something nice to look at
Yeah.
other than just like, here's the album cover, enjoy.
Yeah. But that's something that I've been trying to, off and on, not actively trying, but I've tried to like build with Reaper's video tools, and it's most likely just not the best tool for the job. But I think doing it in Unity, and I don't know, maybe someday people will be creating interactive albums that
Yeah,
you could buy on the PlayStation Store, and there's actually like some sort of game component to it, to the album, or
that would
just
be
changing
awesome.
colors and things like that. I think that'd be really cool. Whether the
Yeah,
music changes as based on what you're doing, or if just visually it changes, I think that's a really cool way of doing it.
yeah, absolutely. Even Unity isn't like the best video processing source. It's just the one that I know. It's like if I know Unity really well, and I don't know Premiere well at all. Like I'm not a video guy. So I don't know Premiere well at all. So why would I try to make something in Premiere, like make something happen in Premiere, whenever I barely know how to hit export?
Yeah.
So if I know Unity and I can just screen capture everything off of Unity, then that's going to be the better option for me as a creator. That's going to be the most efficient way, other than like wasting a month of time learning a video processing unit whenever I'm not a video person.
It seems to me that you're really big on using the tools that you have available, and whether it's the best tool or not, it's just about getting it finished.
Yeah,
I think you release a lot more things than most of us. In general, um, you start a project and you finish it, and it seems like without fail.
you simplify it, but that's like that is like the basis of a lot for me. It's like there is a lot that goes into making a project and getting it from point A to point B, but it's better to get it to point B than anything. Like no one cares about the projects that you don't finish. Like you can't put an unfinished product out until, or you can't like say, "Oh, I worked on this, but it didn't work out," and like people aren't going to want to hear about it. People aren't going to like that's not going to get you a job. The fact of the matter is like deliverables matter. Whenever people are like quality over quantity, that applies, but quantity makes quality in a lot of ways. Picasso made 18,000 paintings. If you can name 12, you probably went to art school, because I can name like four. And and I mean, like that's the case. The fact of the matter is that like whenever you're making things, like you're going to improve by making things, and the more you make, the more you learn, and the more people are going to be like, "That's a cool trick. How did you do that?" And like that's going to be sticking with you. Like me making five, I'm going to be releasing probably I think like 7 albums this year, and each one is just something that I'm making, whether it's for me, like 4 of the albums are, whether it's for me just to use as a learning tool or it's for an IP that I'm attached to. I want to use every single bit of what I have access to make myself better. And as I get access to more things, I already have a steady foundation to build upon, make stuff. That if people take anything out of this interview, it doesn't matter what you have. Like one of my favorite vloggers is Casey Neistat, and I mean, like, he half the stuff he films is with his phone. I mean, like, people don't need to spend like thousands upon thousands of dollars if they don't have it. If you can make something cool that people resonate with $20, then do that. Everything else after that is a pissing contest that only audio nerds care about.
Even saying things like, I'm going to install Reaper next week. What do I need to know? Like, start today. That's what you need to know.
Yeah,
Especially, well, with Reaper, there's so few boundaries between
Yeah.
getting started. Like the demo has all the features,
Mhm.
it will work whether, after 30 days it's going to keep working, or they'll not record anything until they buy an audio interface. And I'm guilty of this myself. So I'm not talking down on people because I procrastinate terribly. And I think that, I need to do this, or I need to buy this piece of gear before I can do this. And it's usually not true. You can usually get
Yeah.
by with bare necessities of even just if you have a computer, you can maybe making music today.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the tracks that's in I Am Heaven, one of the synths that's used is VOPM. That is like a shitty, like free Nintendo VST that's like that makes a bunch of like weird glitchy stuff. And I was using it on a gig making sound effects, and I was like, this doesn't fit at all what I want for this gig, but the default setting of the sound is this really soft little like pad pluck hybrid, and so I ended up using it and putting a bunch of effects on it, and now it's like one of the things that I use for my EDM stuff. Like, you don't have to have the best equipment to make things. You just have to make things.
The whole purpose of sound design is
Yeah.
to turn anything into something that you didn't imagine. Totally opposite of the get it right at the source attitude,
Yeah.
where you need to have $1,000 or $5,000 microphone and going into an equally expensive preamp and all this stuff before you can really record. But
Mm.
sound design is like, take this grain of sand, turn it into an explosion,
Yeah.
whatever you need to do it. And, forget about gain staging, forget about the correct order of putting your plugins in, like do whatever makes it sound good.
Yeah, I mean, like my friend Alex Barnhart, he's making his own ice library because he's in Massachusetts, and the thing that he has an abundance of is snow. And so he's just like every day he posts something on Instagram, which is like a fast forwarded version of him like throwing chunks of snow on the ground and recording it, and it's like the coolest shit ever. Because I'm like,
I love seeing
I
people just going out there and doing stuff.
yeah, like every single person like the that should take away from those videos, like I should do that. If you're a sound designer, then you should be like proactive like that. He like the fact that he's doing that is like one of the most badass things that I've seen out of the game audio field right now, because he's just doing it because he wants to do it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you want something to exist, make it. Like,
Yeah.
don't spend time, don't waste time that you don't have, like, to complaining that it doesn't exist. Find a way to do it. If you don't think that the amount of time dedicated to making it is worthwhile to the payoff, then that's why no one else has made it. The
Yeah.
only reason why things don't exist is because the amount of time it takes to learn how to make it exist isn't equal to the payoff of its existence. Sorry, I get real heated about this stuff.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's it for this interview. Thank you so much, Mark. Great to talk to you as always.
Yeah.
I'll see you around Slack and Twitter and elsewhere. Follow him on Twitter for lots of
High
fun
quality
stuff,
content.
high quality shit posts.
Yeah.
Check out his music. You can find it on YouTube, on his YouTube channel, youtube.com/Marc Straight.
Can I do a quick shout out to a couple of other really cool sound designers that I think would be worthwhile checking out?
Sure.
Number one, Alex Barnhart. He makes awesome synths. He's made 3 or 4 of my synths that I use. Carly Knight, probably one of the most badass sound designers that I know. Andrew Knight, he's a composer and he makes really cool retro music. And also, I can't say retro music without including Shannon Mason, Pong Ball. She makes the coolest retro music that I've ever heard. And just listen to her music. You have to be happy when you listen to her music.
Yeah.
And the last one is M Audible. She is the sound designer for Night in the Woods and also Wonder Song, and she is fantastic, has a lot of great knowledge, and she's just overall a great person. And I have to give shout outs to all those people because they are wonderful and they give out a lot of knowledge with what they make.
And most of them are actually Reaper users as well.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And I interviewed M back in 2016, did 2 videos of that. So I guess put a link to that in the description of this video as well. And that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Join the Facebook group, Reaper Blog Community. Support the Reaper Blog through Patreon. And visit reaperblog.net for a lot more interviews.